Hey everyone, how's it going? You're watching Kohi Lumpur, and in today's video, I wanted to share a quick tip on how to survive at work as a white-collar employee, specifically in regards to the mindset of thinking that more work and harder work and better work pays off. That does not work that way in most white-collar jobs. So I was sharing the same piece of advice to the person that I'm seeing who is having a hard time at work, specifically with her manager who has turned toxic after some time at the job. He was not previously toxic to her, and now he is. And her mindset was that if I start to do better work, if I start to take on more work and more responsibility and prove myself to be one of the best and most productive workers, this problem is going to go away. This is a typical classic mindset that many people are brainwashed into by the education systems that we all have participated in across the world. In school, we're taught that hard work pays off because the more you study, the more likely it is to get better grades. And when you get better grades, you get into a better class. And when you are in a good class, you can then get even better grades, and this will go to show your future high school, your future college, that you are deserving of it because you got good grades while being in a good class and being in a good school. You're gonna get into that good college, get good grades again, and then get yourself a nice good degree that will land you a good job with a good paying salary. That is the brainwashing that happens. In real life, in white collar work, the amount of effort that you put into your actual work does not scale with the chances of you getting promoted, the chances of you not getting laid off, the chances of you getting a huge salary boost because the manager or the manager's manager decided to place you in another team on this big project that makes you have to take on a lot more responsibility and give you that associated giant pay jump. That is not the case. That is not real for most part in many white-collar jobs across the world. I've seen a lot of times and also experienced it firsthand when people are way too productive for their own good at work, but they forget or don't even realize the main real component that enables them to survive the white-collar game. And that is not the amount of work that you do, that is not the quality of work that you do. It is your so-called soft skills, or what they like to call networking skills. There's a lot of euphemisms and double-speak terms that people like to use, like networking, being a good communicator, being a productive worker, whatever the fuck that means. But let's call it out for what it really is. Your main job as a white-collar employee is acting. The tasks that you do from day to day on your computer, like sending out emails, creating PowerPoint slides, creating long documents, writing out all these reports, blah, 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 that's your secondary job. Those things are nice to have, but what you must have is the ability to act. And that's what most white-collar jobs are, and what a lot of people hate talking about because it's the truth. They have to keep up that whole Emperor's New Clothes game where they're saying whatever everyone else in society around them is saying. It's not about these two guys making nothing in their little spindle machine for the emperor. It's about the fact that you have to go along with whatever everyone else is saying, that oh yeah, those guys are making the Emperor's New Clothes. The Emperor's New Clothes look great. I mean, look at that texture. Look at that fit. It's gonna look amazing on the Emperor. And again, most white-collar jobs are about acting. It ranges anywhere from embellishing your accomplishments, basically exaggerating the impact and how great your work was and how many people were affected positively by all the great work that you did, all the way up to bullshitting, which is lying about what you did and what you accomplished, and making sure that people believe that bullshit is also another skill that a lot of people seem to lack at work. And it ranges to outright ass kissing or sometimes even sleeping with the boss. I've worked in a company where there was a person who started out as a junior level associate who's literally slept her way top to become the VP of customer success in that company, right? So it is all these different things that are not technically work, but soft skills that are not pointed out or not credited enough as the main driving factor of why people are promoted and why others are laid off. I have two forms of proof over here. So in the recent tech layoffs that we've seen at the end of the year, as well as early in the year, both this year, last year, and the year before, there were a lot of people who were part of those huge layoffs who were top performers at their job. And in fact, I don't know if it's because of how I browse YouTube or whatever, but it's been recommending me some of those people who got laid off by companies like Google, Amazon, Meta, etc., who decided to go start their own channel and talk about stuff from lessons that they learned at their job to freaking backpacking and moving to Thailand. So with those people, they proclaim themselves as high performers. I have no way of verifying what those individuals really were at their jobs, but I sure as hell know a lot of people personally who have had good evaluations, great yearly reviews, performance reviews, up till that very same year that they got laid off in. And it is not because you didn't do a good job. It's not because you were doing such a good job, but you could have done even better. It's because you didn't kiss enough ass. You didn't act enough at work. You didn't embellish your accomplishments. This is a huge problem, especially in the software engineering departments, right? Where people tend to be more introverted. I think that's a great example. So in many software development, software engineering departments across different companies around the globe, the tendency of those people working there is that they tend to be introverted. They do stuff like they code new features, they fix a lot of bugs, they launch new products that make a huge impact to their company's bottom line, but they don't ever talk about it, right? These people hate talking to people. They have shyness, they have an anxiety that kind of hits them when it comes to small talk or chatting people up. So people at the top almost rarely ever hear from these people unless they are spoken to, right? So they don't speak unless they're spoken to. Now what happens is that quite often in those so-called performance reviews where managers are trying to decide who it is that they should be promoting, it is quite often the person who has talked about their accomplishments the most. So in those kinds of environments, the people who might be the top performer in their team isn't necessarily the person who's going to get promoted. It is the person who has done enough work, enough proof that they can show on the table, but they've talked about it a lot. So this guy who does this amount of work is going to be preferred for a promotion over the guy who does this amount of work a lot more than this guy, because it is about acting. This is what they never tell you in school. This is what society hates talking to people about. The adults, when I was a kid, would never talk about this. They would always say that it's all about the hardest worker. It's all about the top performer. It is all about the person who takes all the initiative. And while that might be true, the main component that allows you to both survive and thrive in a white-collar job is not work. Work is something that's nice to have or sometimes even optional, because I've worked with people in the past who have done no real work. They have bullshit accomplishments that they talk about, but if you work with them before, if you talk to them, if you've actually observed them for any amount of time, they've not done any real work in the many years that they've been at the company, yet they've survived that long. They've been promoted multiple times. It's not because of the actual work, but it's about that main thing that people hate talking about. It's all about acting, bullshitting, embellishment, and also ass kissing. That is what keeps you off those layoff lists and keeps you on the good books of both your manager, your manager's managers, and even the people far above that, your VPs or your C-levels. That is the reason why I have this channel, because I am sick and tired of all the bullshit advice that people have been dishing out to both myself, my younger self, and continue to dish out to people around them, right? Just look at the conversations that happened during Chinese New Year, which was a month ago at this point. It's like the children's fairy tale of the Emperor's New Clothes. The people who are sewing the Emperor's New Clothes aren't actually sewing anything. They aren't actually doing any real work. But everyone around them is just too afraid of speaking the truth, for telling the story as it is, as their eyes and ears have seen. They want to go with what everyone else in society is saying, which is the bullshit that work is what gets you your promotion. Work is what keeps you off those layoff lists. Work is what gets you hired into new jobs when those future prospective managers hear about the terribly amazing accomplishments that you've accomplished in your previous job. It's all bullshit. And again, I'm not saying that this is true for every single job and position that's out there. You know, the reason why people like the person that I'm seeing don't realize this to begin with, despite having been in the workforce for so many years, is that quite often it doesn't hit you unless you get unlucky. But that point where you get unlucky enough to get like a manager or a job that really looks at the way that you dress, whether you're hot in the office, right? The way that you kiss your ass of your manager saying that, oh, you're such a great person. I like that you're so smart. Oh, wow, those things that you said in the meeting were just so mind-blowing. Those kinds of people, those kinds of companies will eventually come the longer you stay as a white-collar employee. So until that point comes, you are in this blissfully innocent, unaware state that this is actually how the world works. This is how most companies, most managers operate. There are exceptions, and you might have been in that exception world until you stop being in it. And that's when the truth hits you like a freaking bus. And that's when you realize, holy shit, I wish I had this guy to tell me the last 10 minutes of what he just said to me 10 years ago when I first started my job. That's how I felt the first time I experienced this at my white-collar job. So that's it for today. I hope you learned something. See you all in the next video. Goodbye.